You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NC F&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today in studio, we have a local icon. From Local Icon Hospitality, Mr. Jon Seelbinder.
Hey, guys. What's going on? Good
What's
to be
happening?
here.
Yeah, man. Welcome. Pleasure to have you on the show. You're kind of a Raleigh fixture in these parts.
Yeah, I for better or for worse, right? Moved here in 1999 to be here for 2 years, and what year is it? 2020?
My God. Yeah. So where'd you move from?
I was in Colorado. I was in school at the Air Force Academy, and left that place and was ski instructing, and I started working in restaurants there. So that's where I caught the bug.
Jeez, ski instructor in Colorado. Like, that's got to be
Sean
sweet.
Fowler. Oh, he was in New Mexico, actually. So, but
yeah, I know he spent some time in Colorado too. Yeah, that just seems like a great way to spend. I assume like your 20s. Like that's where you were for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, why did I need to get motivated to do anything else? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I spent most of my 20s like trying to be an actor and making a little money and bartending, but it's like I could have been skiing that whole time, man.
I don't know.
Vail or something, and probably even making more money.
So you were in Colorado, but you're not from Colorado. Where are you from?
So I'm born and raised in North Carolina.
You are from here?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
So I was born in a little town called Spruce Pine in the mountains. In Mitchell County. It's a dot in between Boone and Asheville on the Blue Ridge Parkway.
So did that like because that's like snowy, kind of hilly area. Is that why you're like, shit, I got to go to get some real snow? You went to the Rockies?
I mean, I grew up skiing in the North Carolina mountains, and like when I went out to school, I was like, man, this is great, right? And so
yeah,
I haven't skied in North Carolina since I moved to Colorado back in the day. So that was a big draw there. But yeah, I mean, hospitality, Southern cooking, cornbread and beans and tomato out of the garden in the summer was a big part of it.
You're OG North Carolina. That's cool. I didn't know that. I actually thought you were a transplant as well. That's good to know.
So I moved, and then when I was 6, we moved down to Wilmington. So I grew up in Wilmington, and then my mom became a firefighter while we were down there, and then she transferred to Chapel Hill, and I actually graduated high school in a little town called Mebane, which is 50 minutes west of here. So literally. People use that word.
It's on your way to Greensboro. Right?
All over the state, from the mountains to the coast to the middle part. So
that's cool, man.
And I think it's really cool that, to the listeners out there, we got a guy from New York and a guy from California leading the charge on the North Carolina food and beverage talk. I think that's pretty awesome.
Heck yeah, man.
What's the LA connection, or do you just like the hat, or are you a Dodgers fan?
I'm a Mike Piazza fan from back in the day.
Oh, right. Well, then why not a Mets hat?
Yeah, well,
because he likes himself.
I've got one of those. Got one of those too. Gary Carter was the man too.
Nice.
I was a catcher in high school and baseball and college baseball.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Gary Carter. Yes. May he rest in peace, the kid.
Yeah.
I thought you were just wearing the Dodgers hat to appease Max.
Oh, yeah, to make it
feel good.
Yeah. A little priming of the day.
There you go. Well, anyhow, okay, so aside from baseball and skiing in Colorado, you are the owner of many businesses in the Triangle area, kind of focused really in Raleigh. But for those that don't know Local Icon as a big business, just to help paint the picture, you've probably had cocktails at the Architect. If you were cool enough, you got to knock on the secret door and went into the green light. Or you may have had a tasty taco at Virgil's, or a delicious sandwich at Linus and Peppers, or possibly a frothy beer at Little City Brewing. I think I've nailed all of the businesses.
You've nailed them all. We are in a transition out of one into a new one. So
right.
There was Level Up, which we're happy to move into the next era of that space.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in right there, because that's new and that's what's happening. So Level Up used to be a barcade, a bar with video games all over. And it is, the way it's situated, for those that haven't been, if you're in downtown Raleigh, just about a block away from where we're at now, Linus and Peppers and Virgil's Tacos share a wall. They're like a duplex party members, and then there's a staircase that goes between them up to the second floor. That's where Level Up was once, but now, what is it going to be?
So we've got the Merchant coming, and just cocktails, and hopefully with some more cocktails. And then we've got a pretty badass food program that's going up there, an elevated bar food program. So secret door, modern, dark, sophisticated, kind of sinister is what I'm looking for up there. So I'm excited about that one. You know, that space was meant for this concept, and I'm like super jazzed up about it. I haven't totally decided on the secret door yet, but there's some fun ones floating around, you know.
That's cool. Yeah, well, that's Greenlight has always been the best kept secret in Raleigh, where people are like, oh, wait, I don't even know, Matt. Have you ever been in Greenlight?
Oh, yeah. I was cool enough at one point to get in there.
Oh, come on. More than still cool enough, right?
No, it's cool, though. If you're in The Architect, you can find yourself in Greenlight, which is a craft cocktail bar kind of situated inside of... What would you consider Architect? It's like a club or a larger
love the word bar.
Music venue.
I always steer clear of the word club.
Yeah.
I worked in a lot of those.
Yeah.
And I typically have called that a bar.
Yeah.
And we just happen to have a DJ. And if you want bottle service, you can have it. If you want some cocktails, you can have it. If you want some craft beer, you can have it. Yeah. It was kind of like a come one, come all kind of thing. And the tagline being the Architect Bar and Social House, just a social gathering place with elevated rage cage kind of energy behind it.
Rage cage, nice. What? How'd you make the transition into all those businesses? You mentioned that you came out to Raleigh for what you thought was going to be 2 years. What did you come out for?
Well, I came to get an engineering degree. And
at NC State.
Yeah, of course you go into hospitality, right? And that part of the engineering program at NC State.
Yeah.
So, I started working in restaurants, and then I got the nightclub bug and the bar bug. And, I love that. And meandered my way through an engineering degree, which was prolonged a bit by my bartending life.
It's funny.
Passion.
You and I have talked offline a few times over the last few weeks. And, just kind of thinking about it, it's like we have restaurateurs that we've definitely interviewed, or just people that know about in the state that are just that restaurateurs. They have multiple locations, but they typically are food venues. But in noticing that you have all these places, you're doing it, but on the beverage side, kind of like sneaky under the radar. That you've got these extra places, especially now with the Merchant coming out. You're going to define yourself more as this beverage person. And that's unique to this area. There aren't a lot of places that have like multiple bars or multiple drinking establishments, and of course you do have eateries. But that's a unique spin on the industry. And so, where did that come from? Just you with your love affair for making drinks and all.
Well, I think I started in fine dining, right, and so that's where I kind of spun around into a little bit of the food stuff.
Where was that in Colorado?
I was in Boulder, a place called Flagstaff House. There's 18,000 bottles of wine in the cellar. Wine Spectator Grand Award year after year. And I think they just had an Iron Chef come out of their kitchen, but it was a family-owned joint, right? And then kind of doing the fine dining thing, that kind of hospitality side of things never left. Once it's in you, it's in you. You're doing bread service, and it sounds like you're doing an award-winning monologue when you're presenting, so that thing kind of sticks in you, even into the nightclub world for me, and so, I just think there's a hole that needs to continue to be filled in the way of good bars in Raleigh. I think the beverage niche is one to fill, niche, if you rather say that word. But I think we've got a slew of amazing chef-driven businesses here, and we've got some real solid talent. I think what speaks to me is the cocktail side of things. I love the atmosphere. I love the elevated experience that you get with awesome cocktail bars, and I've always been a fan. The Architect style bar is something that Controlled Chaos to me is just home. It is, but moving into the Greenlight certainly opened my eyes to what feels really good, and I love that room. And so now I'm starting to expand on a footprint like that, and really kind of try to push our cocktail presentation up over the top if we can.
Meaning more than just a bar where it's like a 1 or 2, 3 ingredient cocktail, but a little bit more crafty, a little bit more heady. Is that
sure?
in a way,
I
I
mean,
guess?
just kind of gravitating towards that, like, the cocktail movement. I mean, I think it's here to stay. It sort of started with the New York speakeasies and filtered into every other city and small town. Even we were just talking about in North Carolina and in America, but
Yeah.
kind of pushing through our. Sticking with the base of the classics. I mean, Cocktail Codex, if you read that book, everything starts with your 5 cocktails and there's a whole tree that everything
Kind of branches out.
off of, So I think environment has a big part of it, and then quality and consistency. I think when we talk cocktails, it's like saying good food, right? Like, good food's not going anywhere. Burgers are here to stay. So, the old fashions are here to stay. They just need to be good.
I do feel, though, on a similar to food, that people want the same ingredient, and this is my impression, but I think I've talked to a lot of people that people want the same high quality ingredient, same level of craftsmanship, but at a less in a more casual environment.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that's for everyone, and there's still certainly exceptions, like, in terms of food, places like the Umstead and Farrington House, and even if you go to Second Empire and those type of places. But it seems to me that there's less of that. But I guess as a businessman, if you can maybe create the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever there is in the community, then you do kind of have a niche there.
Yeah, so the best thing I remember is everything took a turn. Everything changed in the economic downturn, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, $4 empanadas and $7 small plates and $9 cocktails were a thing.
Yeah.
Because of the experience. You'd walk out with maybe a $40 or $50 tab, but it wasn't, like going to a high-end steakhouse where you started at $50,
Yeah.
So, but you had an app or an entree and a couple of great cocktails or beer or whatever else. And, that was a big trend change. And I think from there, as the economy came back around and the free spending opened up, we saw the emergence of the casual restaurant, right? Badass, chef-driven, but casual.
Yeah, no more white tablecloths.
Exactly. And so there's a couple of those here. I mean, big shout out to the guys at Stanberry, man. That was one of the first ones on the scene that was just like slick, cool, badass food experience, and just casual.
You're not going to find bigger fans of Stanberry than in this room.
For sure.
Those guys kick so much ass. We've never had them on the podcast. Isn't that funny?
I've talked to Joe a bunch of times, and
Will and Joe Jeffers.
but
we should have
Will's
just the brothers on or something.
Yeah, but I don't. It seems to me Will's always traveling and stuff like that. But yeah, Will, Joe, come on out.
Yeah, they're great guys. So I was just at an event for Abel, who recently passed. He was a line cook in Raleigh for years, and so there was a few charity events. He had been working in many kitchens around town, and good friend Eric Montagny, who's over at Locals Oyster Bar, and he hosted one, and then came out and went to Stanberry. So that in itself is cool because like Stanberry opened their place up on a Sunday. There were tacos with Marshall Davis over from Ex Voto and Gaio Pallone Centro. Just a cool community of people coming together, roasted oysters, and everyone just made food and just donated all the money to the family so they could help pay for the, funeral expenses and all. But that's, it's unfortunate. It's a sad story, but there is a community that kind of comes through, and places like Stanberry are like, they're badass at what they do food wise, but then super casual as well. You walk in like jeans and a t-shirt. And I think what Matt, like to the point you were making about the fine dining meets the casual dining, I think that scope is widening broader, which I think that's where we're going.
Well, and so that makes me think of opening up the Merchant now. So what is that going to look like? Is that going to look like it's
there you go.
He's showing me a picture right now.
I pulled this up for
it's
you.
Great for pod.
Yeah, and it looks super swanky. It looks like there's a crazy
you got a radio
chandelier
face.
and it looks super swanky, but so is it going to be that multi-step cocktail and you're going to wait? I mean, what's the expectation for a guest?
for sure. It's going to be made with loving hands, right? Like, let's be patient, but it's worth it.
Okay.
There's been plenty of revolution of the cocktail experience, right? Like batching your ingredients, coming up with cocktails that require a 3-bottle pour, which means that, your quote unquote mixers are batched. The stuff that's not going to go bad, you've got your cheater bottles, right? And that's, that's a word in the cocktail world, your Nomads of New York, Nomad Bar, and, my friends at Death and Company and Dead Rabbit and other various spots, like you're cutting down your steps. And so it's easier for me to communicate that to even bartenders, right? Like we want to take that 2.5 minute drink down to 45 seconds, right? Yeah. But you're still having, there's still
kind of better for everybody. I got to say, like, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I know there's something to be said for patience as a virtue, but when you think about all aspects of waiting for your cocktail, the business side of it from the bartender and the owner part, like if you cut down 2.5 minutes on every cocktail, well, that's probably another 2-3 cocktails per person. And you think about the revenue that drives, but also the gratuity that the guest tips on that. It's a lot of money.
Well, I'm a bar science nerd, right? Like I always have been since I was like 22. And so it's like you get hung up in the, I was even talking to some buddies, and it doesn't matter how many we build, we get caught up on the trash can glass rack ice well problem, right? Like
where to put everything.
Yeah, where do you put it, right? Because you're trying to save seconds, right? You're trying to save steps, trying to save like physical steps to POS terminals or back bars or whatever, and all that equals dollars, right? And so dollars to the business, dollars to the bartender, dollars to the to the experience for the guests too, and so in the cocktail world it's now easy to relate. There was this kind of like reserved, I don't understand it, deal with a lot of like volume bartenders transitioning into the cocktail world, and so cocktail bartenders 6 and 7 years ago were this elusive genius of a creature, right? And then you start breaking it down into the elements, and I look at some of these nightclub bartenders sometimes. I'm like, can you make a royal flush, right? There's 4 ingredients in that, so you're reaching, depending on what you look at, CP is what we used to say: crown, peach, cran, pineapple. So crown, royal, peach schnapps, cranberry, pineapple juice.
Seems like a super simple cocktail to me.
Yeah, most people skip the pineapple, right? So that's your old nightclub shooter, right? Well, when you look at a cocktail, I mean, the big deal is the juice or the bitters or whatever you use to fill that cocktail is prepped a little more freshly every day, and you've got more of it, right? So when you reach for those bottles, 3-4 ingredients, you're either stirring or shaking. Let's simplify it down, right? And when you start looking at it that way, I mean, how can you get those steps to a point where, like, even if there's 5 or 6 things in a cocktail that make it great, how can you trim those steps down? And you're right. It's it's an experience first and foremost for whoever walks in. It's got to be great and it's got to be consistent, right? And cocktails have evolved in such a cool, major, badass, awesome way.
Yeah, you're going to go through. What I would like to do, what I've done in the past, is it's everything but the liquor is how I would usually batch, if I could, unless it's maybe a blended liquor drink, 2 or 3 liquors. So then I might blend the liquors in one speed bottle. I didn't say that out loud because I guess you're not supposed to do that. And then, at least in the control state, unless you get it all regulated.
Yeah, you
and all
need to
that.
get the
It's
recipe.
licensing.
You can do it. You can do it online now. We're in the 20th century.
Yeah, it's a whole lot easier now. And for those that don't understand, anytime you batch any cocktail in our state, you have to submit a form that goes down to the gram, the milligram of what you're putting in there, and the vessel of which it's being held, and what type of refrigeration unit it's being held in. It's pretty intense. But I would always like to take the 3 juices or bitters or all that stuff, just kind of put that all in one container, and then all the booze in another container, because somebody might say, oh, light on the booze, and then you're screwed if you batched everything all at one time, or a double, it's like whatever it might be. So then this way you can kind of get in the moment. But if you have enough confidence in your service that night and the amount of volume you're going to go through, well, then just batch it out, and then you can hit it hard. So all the prep is done before the doors open, so that your guest gets the most satisfaction when they're sitting at a bar stool.
Yeah, and I've got a good video. It's of Nomad Bar in New York. Great.
That is a great example of what you're talking about.
Fucking place, right? Like they've got 3 bartenders behind the bar side of things. They've got a beautiful restaurant too, but you looked at it, there's a balcony that, a mezzanine type area where you can sit and eat and imbibe there. And I've got a video down behind the bar. And what I really enjoyed is every bar station had probably 30 or 35 cheater bottles in a stainless box there. But, the showmanship still comes in, the glassware, the ice, the shaking and the stirring, right? You're still handling jiggers, you've got some cool, like the flair bartender of years ago is now the bartender that can control 2 jiggers in one hand and stir and shake at the same time, right? And so there's an elegant showmanship to it, and I think that's really neat. I think it's pretty cool.
And I want to say, John, that one organization that's doing a great job of telling the stories of these showmen and these really talented people across our state is the Folks Foundation. And
yeah, we actually just were chatting it up with Leanne Sullivan, who runs the Folks Foundation, at a bar here in Raleigh at Foundation just a couple days ago, talking with her. She's a great new sponsor. You're going to hear a lot more about Folks Foundation as the year continues. But what is it? What is the Folks Foundation? Well, they are champions of all good things crafted in North Carolina by the folks that make them. And so through either ongoing grants or their publication, which is the Folks Journal, released quarterly throughout the year, and their soon-to-be-made general store, which will happen in the historic downtown region of New Bern, which will feature all retail goods made in North Carolina. And also, speaking to yours, maybe they need your assistance, John, at some point, but they talked to me about they're going to open up a craft bar that's above the general store. I believe that it's going to be called Tonic, and it's going to be 100% North Carolina everything. So,
dope.
They're going to do everything to kind of champion even more of that. So those folks at the folksfoundation.org are good friends of the podcast. They kind of are just in line. I mean, that we share very similar interests in just trying to tell the stories of what is happening in North Carolina and highlight those artisans. And they give back too, which is great because they have their own grants that they feature. They're a 501c3 nonprofit, and they're currently celebrating U.S. Army veteran Alex Frampton Winters of Bellator Roasting Company out of Eastern North Carolina. So if you want to find out more, you can read their journal online for free at folksfoundation.org, and be sure to consider a small donation to help support other North Carolina makers. So, that's pretty cool. And getting back to I don't want to go too far off subject, but you're also a fellow veteran as well. But you were from the Air Force, that's right?
Yeah, I did. I was just at the Pentagon on Friday.
Are we being watched now? Or do you have like a camera on your person?
Wait a minute, you were at the Pentagon?
It's kind of wild. It's so fun that I've kept up. So I had a run at the Air Force Academy. My first love was I watched Iron Eagle and Top Gun, and I was going to the Air Force Academy. Applied to the Naval Academy, got in there too. Went to the Air Force Academy. Was going to fly jets and retire. And all my buddies are Pentagon colonel right now, and some of them are in their Pentagon jobs. So I had an old friend flying from New Mexico who kind of went off the radar for 10 or 20 years. He married a girl and wasn't allowed to play with us anymore, right? And so, my buddies, I've lived vicariously through the Air Force world and climbed all over planes in Alaska and Germany, and been to weapons school graduations, and toured Nellis Air Force Base, which is where the weapons school, the Thunderbirds, the F-22s, the F-35s, and so I told my buddy who was visiting, I was like, we could run up to D.C. and maybe do a tour of the Pentagon.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
Friday we go up and we do a private tour of the Pentagon. Like, it's just, that's kind of cool. It's something that, I've been able to do, and to the point where I ran into another buddy when we walked in the door at the Pentagon within 30 seconds, and he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Hey, Dean," and he goes, "Seal, what the fuck are you doing here?" And I said, I hadn't seen this guy in 15 years. I said, "I'm here with our buddy Dan. We're going to do a tour." He said, "Well, tell him congratulations." And okay, cool, I will. And we got all the way through the tour, and my buddy was like, "Hey, I'm supposed to get a call from my 2-star general this weekend. He's going to let me know if I made colonel or not." And I said, "Oh, by the way, congratulations, you made colonel," I guess, because I'd run into somebody at the front door. So I got to do the announcement at the Pentagon.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's a fun, silly story.
Nice.
But,
That's pretty cool.
That's like praise the messenger as opposed to shoot the messenger.
Yeah, right.
There.
I brought the good news for once. And so, I don't know. That's a cool part of, that really was my first love. And then, hospitality and being a business owner really is the one that I gravitated towards, which has been equally a big passion for me, so.
What is it, Matt, about the military turned beverage
lately
person?
This has been a slew of...
Yeah, we've had Anthony Scalabrino of the Navy. Now he created Oak City Amaretto. He was just recently on. We had
Eric
over
Instill.
who is he was a Raleigh Police Department Raleigh officer. But prior to that I think he was in the Army, right?
Yep.
And then now we have Air Force. So we need a Marine. Who? Oh, Anthony.
No, from Revival.
Oh, Mike. He was a Marine. So we've had everybody.
Yeah, we've covered them all.
That's crazy.
Coast Guard?
We would need a Coast Guard. Yeah.
If you're a Coast Guard and you're in the hospitality business, give us a call because we need to complete the.
You're a shoe-in.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, being a business owner, what was the first business?
Architect was the first.
Okay.
I had $10,000 in my pocket, is every dollar I had at the moment, and had an opportunity to sign a lease and put that down on a security deposit and part of a first month's rent, and then sat there in a space and said, oh shit, I got to raise a little money.
That's a big project to take on for your first project, because for Architect Bar, for people that don't know, it's in downtown Raleigh, and it's a relatively, as Max said, you could see it as a nightclub or even like a music venue. I know during Bluegrass they have people play there and stuff like that. That's a big undertaking.
So
for your first...
I think definition of, to get back to what we were talking about earlier, if you technically describe the Architect, it's a nightclub, right? To the point where I've got some great pictures of right after I opened, and there's a line that wraps around Taz's, right? And for me, I had spent enough time in the nightclub world, busy bars.
So you were a high volume bartender.
Yeah, man, best bartender in the Triangle 2001.
Oh,
Hall of Fame 2006. So
don't drop that mic, man. It's expensive, but the
mic just caught on fire. High volume stuff. Again, like I said, the Control Chaos was just comfort for me.
Yeah.
So, footprint wise, yes, it was. It was a fairly decent sized project. I think that it's 3,700 square feet. The building is, but I think 3,000 to 5,000 square feet is a sweet spot, and I love the high volume stuff. I do, and I actually, kind of got off on an exit rant with all the other stuff we've done, and it's been beautiful, right? It's come with a little bit of pain and some setbacks and at times, but the bigger projects, like, a friend of mine once said, he's like, takes just as much effort to do the big ones as it does the small ones, right?
Right.
And so, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I mean, it was already an existing bar, so I spent a lot of time, redoing bathrooms and upfitting the aesthetics of it. So, the magic.
So where'd you get the rest of the money for?
Oh my God! I just kind of blazed out into the wild, right? Friends that had saved a little money, I gave them a nice high interest rate for the first year, and I had some equity partners come in, which is a whole nother story. Folks that I didn't really know that well at the time, know, and so. Yeah. But hey, swing for the fence, and I pretty much managed the whole construction project myself. I had a buddy kind of who had a GC license, but I was on site every day, making sure that people were doing their stuff, and so it was blazing out into the wild and figuring out how to raise a little bit of money while you're opening something. I didn't have this angel investor or family money or anything like that, so it was an awesome lesson, right?
Diving into the deep end.
Yeah. I said, you got to. I could be off color here, but you put your nuts on the chopping block, and yes. you kind of start to do whatever you can to make it work, right? So.
Yeah. So that's a good point to jump into this, because Max, we all talked about it a little bit before, but there was that famous Triangle Business Journal article about monies, and I don't know if you want to comment on that or give your side of the story, but or tell us what happened.
It's a good segue right now. We talked about whether or not that's a great thing to talk about. I think it's part of the story. A big pushback, which I think that the whole city and everybody it's the land that folks forgot. I opened Little City Brewing 4 months after, and then 5 months later, the Metropolitan apartment building went up in flames. The whole neighborhood shut down. That was March 2017.
Yeah, that was a horrific day, man. For people that don't understand, recently we just had Matt Kelly on, and we talked about the Durham explosion that unfortunately took the lives of 2 different people and injured a lot of people as well. But in Raleigh, we had something that was pretty similar in a sense. This building was being built to house. It was going to be a condo building, multi-purpose building, and it just caught on fire and went ablaze. I remember being at Standard Foods and looking up at the sky and just, I mean, it looked like there was a laser light show happening in the distance. The whole sky lit up, and we're like, "What the heck is happening?"
Biggest fire in 100 years, 5-alarm fire.
Yeah.
You know, Matt Kelly is a very good friend of mine. We go back 20 years. And what's crazy about that is I've got only a few people that I lean on very openly, right? Like that Matt's friends with my brothers and my mom and other friends of ours. And so I was leaning on him at that time just as a sounding board. And then it came full circle where that happened with the gas explosion near, St. James, they closed. And so suddenly he's like, "Holy shit, Johnny, this is a thing." I said, "Is it a thing?" He said, "Yeah, it's a real fucking thing, man." He's like, and so they closed down. But what's kind of crazy, and not to take away from that, but I was just in Durham the other night and stopped by and gave Matt a hug in the Dish Pit, which is so awesome. That's a great place to find a chef during an opening, right?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And the streets are back open there, right? The streets here in Raleigh, again, I hate talking about the negative of it because I think, positively we're at Little City Brewing, we're just on this run right now. It's sick. It's awesome. The energy is great. We've got 3, beer awards that we picked up in 2018 and, plenty of good press and this and that and everything else. But the Quorum Center residents just moved back in about 8 weeks ago, right? And so the streets were closed in that neighborhood for
almost 3 years.
Yeah, it's been 2.5 years that the neighborhood took to get back to where we were the day the fire happened, right? So at any rate, I did not write that into my business plan, right? Yeah. I put some money away for a rainy day, like 6 months, and I didn't write it into my business plan. And so, fault me for that. I wrote a pretty good business plan, but not the biggest fire in 100 years. What if, right? And so just as that's an aside, it's a story of perseverance, right? And there's some other businesses and some residents that were, just getting our lives back over there, right? And so in the process, you open these things. I open these things, right? I start with the architect. We go green light. We go, Level Up, Linus and Peppers, Virgil's, and then Little City Brewing, right? And so on the outside looking in, you're like, "Oh man, you're killing it!"
Yeah,
that came with its own set of pain, right?
Yeah.
And so, boom, then this fire happens, and we lose 50% of our revenue overnight. The neighborhood stays quiet. Nobody can get to you. They open one street, they close another. Blah 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 blah. That's a whole nother story. But in the process, there was great press behind our brands. Moral of the story is, every now and again, you get a few rough apples in the bunch, and so we had to work through that. And so coming into 2020 and 2018, there were some good stories to tell, but 2019 was a kind of a pause year. And some of that was what I was working through, that was not fun press, right? The fun press is the good stuff. What are we doing? Getting
awards, opening up new cocktail bars.
Well, I mean, Linus and Peppers, right? We partnered with some culinary students, and we did a pop-up, and we worked with local vendors. I mean, that was a cool press thing. And then, Little City Brewing got 50 fastest growing breweries in the country by the Brewers Association, right? Well, when the neighborhood burns down, you only brew so much beer. And then when you start ramping back up, I mean, that's a cool accolade, right? That was somewhat under-publicized. So, that's the fun press, and that's what we're moving towards right now, So
I'll take a quick moment to take a quick break to talk about if you actually are a business, and this is new for our listeners, if you want to get hip to something new that actually could help a business to business in a way. I'm talking about ehungry.com, and I'm such a poster child because I'm literally wearing ehungry.com's shirt on my body right now. But they're a great local business, and this is for business owners. If you think about it, you might have something like, say, Linus and Peppers or Virgil's, and you're trying to figure out how to sell something online, like a takeout program, and generate online sales in whatever fashion. It could be retail as well. They help set you up online and become your sales portal. So they'll do your menus, literally, like as soon as somebody buys a taco online, you get the alert in the kitchen, so you know to make it. And so they charge 1.9 sales commission on every sale, but they don't have any startup fees. It's all free. They're free updates and free support. If you mention that the NC F&B podcast helped you out, you don't just get 1 month of support for free. You get 60 days of free. So that's no sales commission at all for the first 60 days. They're based here, like I said, in Raleigh, and they'll have team members all over the world. 15 years in business. order yourself some lunch.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer if you're a business owner looking to expand upon your revenue and you don't really do much on either delivery or takeout. There's no setup fees, no monthly plans, no contracts. Just go to eathungry.com and you can basically extend your revenue and
start generating some more bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
take one more second to also acknowledge the butchers markets,
right?
Which they, in terms of hospitality, excel and talk about having a great conversation with your local butcher. They actually right now are looking to hire people who want to become butchers, and they will train you. They have 4 locations around, well, soon to be 4 locations. They're hiring for a new spot up in the New Bedford area, and it's a great place to work. They have unbelievable cuts of meat. They even have fish. They even have chicken. They do a lot of prepared stuff, which just makes it easy for you to take it home and throw it on the grill or throw it in the oven and you cook it. But more importantly, for those that maybe are in between jobs, looking to get into the hospitality industry, if you go to thebutchersmarkets.com, there is a opportunity for you just waiting to become of a great organization that'll teach you a craft and is also a small locally owned business.
Well, I've got a fallback plan.
Yeah, exactly, John. If it doesn't work, you got it.
Go check that out.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's transition into. There's a lot to talk about, and we've actually talked to a few people that have been dealing with this. One of which is your actual good buddy, Sonny Gerhardt, who is a previous. He was actually who we recorded with last week. Funny enough is that I told you when we were booking this that we had Sonny on this one night, and you're like, dude, he's my bro. Let's just do the show together.
Yeah, that'd be great. We could do it shirtless.
Shirtless, as I do remember how you said. I don't know why you went straight to shirtless. That must mean that there have been shirtless nights in your past.
Just a lot of hugging and love for years.
So Sonny is the chef owner at St. Rock, but he's OG, as we discovered that he knows everybody in town. And much like yourself, you guys have been in the business for a long time, but it also probably led to a lot of partying, a lot of reclamation and all. And his story is somewhat similar. You do all this beverage stuff, but you're not really imbibing any longer. Is that correct?
So I retired from drinking 6 years ago. And it's been a cool thing. It really has been. I've become more comfortable in bar and nightclub environments than I ever was before. So,
and that's, I mean, when you say retire, obviously it's a great way to say it, but you're sober.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I've been sober for 6 years now. And so, that's what I say, retire.
Yeah, I like word, that. Right? Yeah, I retired from it. Yeah, that's good.
They hung his jersey.
No, I mean, the lifestyle is one of those ones where I think if you're an attorney or a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer, I mean, booze is always there, right? It's readily accessible. But in our world, there is an all-access pass to it.
Right.
I mean, Wednesday night, if you're on your way out the door and your liquor reps show up and you're like, hey, listen, we got all the bosses in town. We're drinking Jameson Gold tonight. And you're like, well, I guess we're drinking Jameson Gold tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly comes with the lifestyle. I mean, the industry a lot. And you see a lot of folks heading in the sober direction, chefs. It's big time cocktail guys and girls. So, that's been part of the culture lately, it seems like.
How does that work? I mean, you're not, like, now you're like an entrepreneur, you own businesses, you do a lot. So you are probably not in the dish pit as often as, Matt Kelly when he's opening the restaurant. But, I mean.
That's like a land of, Scott Crawford talks about going to the dish pit. That's like a place of solace.
Right.
For folks.
Well, we're the misfits in the dish pit.
Yeah, there you go.
Aptly applied.
Yeah. So, and actually, I think Scott and Steve Palmer just did a dinner to benefit with Ben's friends and Steve Palmer's book, and these guys all really well too as being tied into it. But how does that work in the industry? Just is it through the community? Do you guys kind of help support each other? Do you need that support from each other?
I think. In general, entrepreneurship is fucking hard, right? Gary Vaynerchuk says that all the time. Entrepreneurship is fucking hard. Yeah. So let's not take that away. And I think what you find is you talk to folks that get in a lonely place when it comes to being a business owner. And I just talked to a friend of mine in Montana. She has it's called Organic Buckaroos or something like that. She's got like an organic cleaning products type type deal, like laundry detergent, and even her, she's going through this span of loneliness, and so I think on the business owner side of things, it's really important to have someone to talk to, and then when you start mixing in the part of, man, I'd like to move on from this drinking and drugging part of my life. What's wrong with me, or how do I do this? I mean, it's really, really, really important to have a support group. And I think there's plenty of people out there that are probably shouldering that thing by themselves, to the point where I was in a group text the other day with some friends in the industry, and, there was somebody that was reaching out, that was in a tough place, had been sober, a year, and suddenly was like, got a case of the fuckets, maybe, like, what the hell, is this really for me? And so I think it's really important to have, folks to lean on just as much as it is to call someone and say, hey, I'm having problems with my QuickBooks. Seriously. How did you solve this problem, kind of thing? And the easier it is to reach out to someone, I think that's how you get through those tough moments, because it's not just like, hey, I stopped drinking beer yesterday, and my life is suddenly better today, or a year from now, or 2 years from now. I mean, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to be there when folks have reached out, and so, and sometimes it's not for everybody. Maybe they think that's a step they want to take, and it's not, and that's fine too. But, as you trudge through life and you trudge through being sober in a booze driven environment, I mean, it's certainly important to have folks that understand what that looks like.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, if we can get to a place, especially within our industry, if now that we know this, and in a way, this is going to come off extremely politically incorrect, but it's I don't know. It's disappointing that we have to completely shut it off, right? And so I only wish that people that are coming up in the industry now, maybe they could have a better balance, right? So they don't have to we know it's on all access pass, as you said, and we know it's readily available. So maybe we can figure out a way to have other outlets of doing things, and realize that okay, let me not get to the place where, sorry for using this term, but I'm abusing alcohol or drugs at some point, and I'm just having it as of something that's an additional enjoyment and a part of the culinary and hospitality world, but it's not the only part.
Sure. So, I love booze. I think, I got no problem with it, right? Like, we if you're really on the beam with things, like, there's no for or against from those of us that have chosen to not imbibe anymore, and so there should be, I make beer for a living, right? I and that was after I got sober. I mean, we've picked up a GABF and 2 US Open awards, so I pick up liquor, I sit in my cocktail bar and I talk through cocktail building, and I jump behind the bar at the Architect just because I do it for about 15 minutes at a time, and
just to feel that old spark.
I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once
30
as I ever
tickets
was.
in, you're like, all right, I'm good. Tap out.
So I think that there is an emergence of spirit-free cocktails, low ABV. That's a big thing right now. Dry bars that are basically glorified juice bars. We're moving away from the word mocktail, because that's not an elevated word for what's going on, but spiritless, spirit-free, low ABV, no alcohol. That's a thing right now. That's an emerging big trend in the industry, and so I think there is a shift in this younger generation, for better or for worse, because they've got some other weird things going on, but towards other activities other than drinking and raising hell to come into your early, adulthood, right? And so there is some evolution there, but I think, look, some of the greatest things happen around getting together and sharing drinks, family, friends, great ideas, business meetings, all those things happen. And I think there is a percentage of the population that it stops working for. I mean, for a lot of people, it starts out working just fine, and it evolves into a different place,
I hear what you're saying, though, Matt. I don't think enough attention is brought to the idea of balance and moderation. Yes, there's a lot of slogans at the end of beer commercials that say know when to say when and all that stuff, but that doesn't mean anything to somebody unless they actually see what that process is.
No, I think there's a fine line, and I think it's a difficult line that we all in this industry walk. But, if you think about it and you step step back, I'll just give like our personal thing. The other night we were out enjoying the Triangle Wine Experience, the after party at Pools, and then it's like, okay, well that was fun, and we drank some great champagne, but let's go get more. It's like,
we should have just been done that night, but now we were like, where's the next place?
Yeah,
and then
the rage cage.
Yeah, but also like and then I look at myself. Oh, I justify it like, well, this is like my one night out, because I'm doing it up big. But then again, how many times does that happen in somebody who's working in this business? Where it's like, your liquor reps come in and like, okay, so sit down and have 2 Jameson Gold, but that doesn't mean like let's go out all night, go to the rage cage, and like down bottles of Jameson Gold, or whatever that may be.
That's the difference, is that we're not all the same the way our bodies react, because
they're chemicals.
If you do have, as like the great words of Will Ferrell says in Old School, once it hits your lips,
it tastes so good.
But it's true. Like some people can have that delicious Jameson or so and be like, damn, I really want another one, but I'm not going to, and they don't.
Yeah.
Whereas other people are like, I have to have another one, and then they do. But there's more complexities into this world when it comes about addiction and it's whether it's pills or whatever. Like, so many people are just medicated all day long, and they say, I'm sober. It's like, really? Because you got a lot of Zoloft in you right now.
There's a lot of chemicals, other chemicals.
So like, what does sober mean? And is it more just like, are you functioning, and are you being good to yourself and those around you, and are you getting through this life? Are you not adversely affecting the rest of the world and yourself in the time when you're dealing with your potential addiction?
That's a good way to put it. Well, John, what do you say, like, if somebody's struggling at this point and they're like, man, I got to get this under control, but I don't not necessarily just want to say I drink or I don't drink. Like, what do you tell people who come to you at this point, like within your group?
Well,
and your
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'll put my email and my phone number out there for anybody, that wants to reach out. And I think that's a big part of it. And at the end of the day, the goal is, if you're broken and hurt and it's not working for you anymore, to get into a place where you're not broken and hurt, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the goal. And, if it works for me, or it works for Scott or Steve, or, some of these other guys that are outward about it, if it works for them in that way, that's the experience we share, right?
Yeah.
What happened, what it was like, what happened, what it's like now, kind of thing, and that's what you lean on. And so if someone reaches out, you got, my responsibility, or my honor, or my badge of whatever right now, is to be able to pick up the phone and say, this is how I did it. And if you want to take that step, I can certainly, try to support it. It's a slippery slope. Sometimes it's tough, you've got folks that kind of come and go, and they've got, personal monsters they've got to fight. And so you hope that, hopefully they can stick with it. The crossing the work and the the support side of things is a challenge sometimes.
Yeah. We actually should give credit to the Triangle Wine Company.
Yes.
Even though they sell that devilish thing called alcohol, they have wine and beer. And, hey, if you understand the moderation and what alcohol can give to you, there are benefits and enjoyable times you have while drinking. And so if you do it responsibly and you do it, you make a plan and you do it properly, well, then go get yourself some wine and go get yourself some beer and do it the way you think you should do it. And if you practice safe habits, then go to trianglewineco.com. And I definitely don't mean make light of any of this. We are all different people. We all have different stations in life of where we're at. And some of those want to go get a 6-pack or want to get a nice bottle of champagne and enjoy whatever it is for themselves. I'd probably recommend don't get the 99 pack from Pabst Blue Ribbon and try to crush it in a night, because that might be considered abuse of alcohol at some point.
They call that the Centurion Club.
Right, yeah, you guys do that. But good friends of ours, and you can always use the NCFB promo code, get a discount while you're shopping at Triangle Wine Co. And tell them that we said hi.
Yeah. And John, I don't think you need to give out your email address, but this is probably a good time to plug all your social media networks people that are looking for you, who might want to go out and enjoy Architect and the Merchant coming up, etc.
Man, it's crazy. The three of us could talk for a while here. We're already down all kinds of paths, right?
Yeah.
And we got to get back to the Merchant before I get out of here, because I gotta continue to shamelessly plug that thing, because I am super fucking fired up about it, right? And so let's see, what do we got? What can I go through all of them? You can find Little City Brewing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, hoping to, I like LinkedIn as a platform I'd like to continue to move into, but not yet. So each one of my brands has its own social media. www.thelocalicon.com is typically where you can meander through the brands.
The collection of all your companies.
It's got all the websites for all of the brands, and then so we've got Little City Brewing's got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then its own website, and then we're going all the way down. The Green Light's got its own thing.
We'll put links to all those on the site, but
Sure.
let's get specific into with the merchant. Now, you just showed us a picture of what it looked like, and Matt, I don't know if you think the same way, but it has that cool classic look of the Punch Room where Bob Peters was attending for so long at the Ritz-Carlton down in Charlotte, where it's like kind of black with gold. It's elegant, it's sophisticated.
I like dark, sinister, and sexy.
That sounds great too. That sounds great. What is that? A marble bar? Is that what that? Yeah,
so Carrera marble.
It looks.
One of my favorite bar tops. It's classic.
Yeah.
I've got a really good stone vendor here locally, and they take good care of me. And I've known my salesperson there for 20 years, and so I marble tabletops, marble bar top. Man, it's just beautiful. It's classic. It's timeless. You can finish the edges a little differently. We'll do a little more modern finish on that.
So you also talked about you're going to have a pretty serious food program there too, right?
Yeah.
You've got a full kitchen. I think you even said that the kitchen might even be bigger than some of the other restaurants that you've opened in the past.
Well, it was there, and we kind of had to work with it. It could certainly be trimmed down, but we were working with some footprint that was already there. So.
Yeah. Anybody what's your team like out there? Because everything's separate, right? Like the guy that's making the tacos at Virgil's is doing his thing. And
there's a lot of crossover, and I push for crossover. If you can imagine, the only way to run 3 kitchens in one building is to try to cross train, right? You've got folks coming and going at different times in their shifts. Now that's easier said than done, and it has been challenging. And the building is 9,000 square feet. We've got 3,000 square feet in the basement, 3,000 square feet on the ground floor, and then 3,000 square feet upstairs where the merchant's going in, right? So it is an interesting puzzle, which I nerd out on and like. And big shout out to my man Will over at Schedule Fly. I mean, we've been using them for years, and we use every single tool they have on that online platform, right? I have to write schedule templates, and we have, as an owner, I mean, it's just something that I'm decent at, and if we're going to watch the labor dollar there, we have to cross train, right? So the way we look at it is, Chef Adrian Black, homie, talented, great pedigree, came from the Umstead last. He was with Rick Bayless up in Chicago for a number of years at Shoko and Frontiera Grill there. Michelin 1-star and a pretty well-known chef in the area. So
it's badass.
So he gets fired up about the creative side of what we're doing food-wise, right? And so Virgil's, in its inception and its opening, was not a taco shop or a Mexican restaurant. A badass Mexican restaurant. It is a badass restaurant that happens to serve Mexican cuisine. And we sort of had to get back. We're working very hard back towards that right now, right? So we opened Virgil's. We did 10,000 tacos in the first month we were open, which is a fun number to throw out, but you realize, $4 tacos, that's not a huge revenue number, but we did about a 50-50 split on booze and food. And so we were kind of on our way. We had a decent little wine program, decent cocktail program, and some dinner to late night stuff going on there. So we've had to kind of, I hope my goal and our dreams this year is, as we're working back into the merchant, that we're putting some oomph back into Virgil's dinner hour, right? Like we do this lunch thing with Linus and Peppers and Virgil. So Linus and Peppers, Virgil's lunch, Leonard, I'm making motions with my hand, but they're on the same floor, right? And it's like, that's a similar staff. We go up into the merchant and the cooking team, and the Virgil's night cooking team could really kind of flip back and forth. I mean, we do, this is underknown, but in Linus Peppers and Virgil's, we have 35 to 40 ingredients that we make in-house for everything for each of those menus. So you're talking 70 to 80 ingredients that we do. I mean, we slow roast our pork, we cure our own roast beef. We brine the turkey in-house. We, all of our sauces are house-made. Our tomatillo, our romesco sauce in the sandwich shop, like on and on and on and on, right? Salsa roja and everything else. So as we go in and upstairs, we've already got that kind of stuff going on. We do our own bread and butter pickles in-house, and so, we're moving into this thing that we're already doing, and, it's a big passion thing for me to push us towards that, so that the cook team, I've got one chef for the building, and we have a chef that's a sous chef that's moving on to a great opportunity with Matt Kelly, actually, and so we're looking to fill those shoes, and we need a couple of strong sous chefs there. And so as we look at this Tetris of a schedule and an operation, we certainly move into the merchant with some really pretty slick, food menu, like small charcuterie program there. Yeah. Pick 3, pick 6, pick 9. And then we move basically into menu that's priced everywhere from, it's a small to medium plates kind of situation, right? Like we're starting at $7 and moving all the way to a, $25 to $27, strip steak. And,
that's right.
So
steak. That menu looks awesome.
Moules frites, steak frites. Just kind of an American, Belgian, French bar food menu. And you start saying French and Belgian, people think you're opening a French bistro. So I got to be careful about that, but it's just badass bar food, right? And so cocktails taking the center stage, and then you can do everything from coming in for a snack and some cocktails to, a full meal. The three of us sit down and order 4 or 5 plates, and we're killing it. You know? So,
all right. Sounds good. When are we doing it?
Yeah. March.
So opening in March.
Yeah, that's the goal right now.
I can't believe you've already designed as much as you've had. Looking at that picture, that's crazy, because you would not think that an arcade bar was there before, that Level Up was there before. That's a huge transition.
Well, that's the goal, right? You want the space to speak for itself and not...
And didn't the space was once, like, you're calling it the Merchant because... It was the North Carolina
Merchants Association. I've got a great picture of it that'll take a center stage in the space.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're kind of bringing...
There's a lot of cool history. That building's built in 1922, and like most of the buildings down here, there's story after story. I ran into a lady a couple of years ago, and she's like, my grandmother had a hat shop here. She was one of the only black female business owners in downtown at the time. She showed me a picture of like the late 70s or early 80s. And so, there's nuances in that building that I'd like to give nods to.
Yeah.
But there was a pretty prevalent black and white photo in Old Raleigh that I pulled that showed the NC Merchants Association there.
Cool.
That's awesome, man.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You've got a lot going on, and you've gone through a lot to get to where you're at.
It's been I hit a home run out of the gate, right? Like the Architect was a home run. I questioned everything that I did there afterwards and did different things. And what I've come back to is there was a good formula there, right? And it was raise a little money, go into a second generation space, make it really cool at the time, and get back and fill it up with people. And that's the magic, right? You can do anything, and if you have the right team and you've gotten yourself out to the world properly, you could open a bar. I always say with the right team of people, you could open a bar in a dirt floor warehouse and kill it. If you make it cool enough, right?
Yeah,
totally.
Oh, yeah.
You guys want to go down to the dirt floor?
Let's go to the basement of this building.
Yeah, I thought of like 3 good bar names since during this episode. I'll give 2 of them: the Deep End and the Pentagon.
Oh, there you go.
The Pentagon.
So you could do the Pentagon bar. Yeah. But we are going to give you a gift that you can re-gift. And talk about moderation. If you're out and you're drinking and you're like, oh, I should really just go home. What you can do is you can go home and you can grab yourself a pint of Proof alcohol ice cream and kind of fuse your ice cream and dessert and alcohol together. So the people at Proof have come up with this amazing way to think differently about dessert, and they really have great ice cream, but it's infused with real alcohol, and there are some delicious flavors as well. I personally like the cheesecake moonshine, but a lot of people
I like the rum coconut.
You like the rum coconut, and a lot of people love the bourbon caramel. So
that's awesome.
I'm sure you can find somebody to gift that to and be like, I got you something.
Well, I've had a lot of house guests in the last month, and they've crushed my home bar program. So I do have a full kegerator of Little City beer in the garage right now, and about 15 classic arcade games. So You know,
yeah.
at some point
They
I
had
got
to go somewhere.
No, we got to start beefing it up. So I think alcohol-infused ice cream is also a good
Perfect
man.
application.
a good additive to that.
Go to proofalcoholicecream.com or click the link in our show notes. But Matt, what else we got?
Well, I'm excited for you and for the merchant. So everybody, go to the Architect, go to the merchant, go to Linus and Peppers, go to Virgil's, and you will eat and drink very merrily.
Yeah, we're ready for you. The red carpet is out. I don't know that I have a red carpet right now, but you know,
You can find
in
one.
the proverbial sense.
We'll get a red carpet.
Yeah, you'll get one.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.